Alrighty guys, I went 4-1 in my 5 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. But before we get into some more of that, just want to take a quick time out. Welcome you to the video here today for Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you find yourself enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. Like I said, before, that would definitely mean the world to me if you took a half a second to smash the like button. You really have no idea how much that thumbs up button really helps out the channel, kind of spikes that YouTube algorithm so more people can find me. And I'll tell you what, if you want to connect with me on a daily basis, please feel free to hit that subscribe button as well. I'd love to connect with you day in and day out. And like I said a few moments ago, guys, I went 4-1 in my last 5 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. I'm also 3-0 in my last 3 NBA tier package bets on that very same website. And the good news is I have another NBA tier package bet going off here today. Of course, I'll include a link for that play in the description section below. And just remember, guys, if you sign up for my NBA tier package, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus here, guys, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships on that site absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. Now, I currently have over 560 members who are signed up and active on my website right now. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some shout-outs. Shout out to Joshua38410. Who said, I love the one video for every sports setup. Much more enjoyable. Shout out to D Nice, who said, let's eat. And finally, shout out goes to Mason Puckett, who said, your picks are all wrong. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Hawks at the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Atlanta's the 3-point favorite, totals 226. Now, the Hawks may be going to work without leading scorer Trae Young. He's currently struggling with a back injury. Now, the Hawks are already going to work here without John Collins and DeJounte Murray due to injury. And more recently, the Hawks as a team, they dropped 7 out of their last 10 ball games, and they covered the point spread in just 30% of those ball games. They've also been pretty bad on the road this year, even when they were mostly healthy. Now, out of 14 contests away from Atlanta, the Hawks got the W only 5 times. They're facing an Orlando team who does a nice job of covering at the Amway Center. These guys are 10-6 against the number in front of their own fans. They're also doing a nice job grabbing rebounds. The Magic's currently in the top 3 in the league in defensive boards. Paolo Banchero's grabbing nearly 7 rebounds a night. He's also the team's leading scorer with 21 points a game. Franz Wagner, he's averaging just about 20 points a night himself. And when it comes to the injury report, Okike, Suggs, and Harris are out. Wendell Carter's still also hurt with a foot injury. Meanwhile, for Atlanta on the other side, once again, Collins and Murray are out. Trae Young is questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, Atlanta's going 10-4 to the over while traveling. Meanwhile, Orlando saw overs against the likes of the Clippers, Toronto, and this very Atlanta team. I'm going to lean toward Orlando +3 over 226. Next game, Pistons, Hornets, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Charlotte's the 3-point favorite, totals 225.5. And as bad as the Hornets have been, well, they have been dominant against Detroit in recent meetings. They're 9-1 straight up in their last 10 ball games against the Pistons. So if you're into historical trends, certainly want to think about that one there. Now, Charlotte's also one of the better teams in the league right now in guarding the three-pointer. These guys have the 8th lowest defensive three-point percentage in the league. When it comes to offensive production, Terry Rozier is dropping 22 points a game, along with 5 assists. Meanwhile, Kelly Oubre is scoring over 20.5 points a night himself. They're facing a Pistons team on the other side who lost 7 out of their last 9. They've been terrible on the road. Out of 16 contests away from home this year, The Pistons got the W only 3 times. And no real surprise here, guys. Detroit's second to last in the NBA in shooting from the field. Now, injury-wise, Livers is out today. Cunningham's gone for the season. Meanwhile, for Charlotte, Smith, Ball, and Williams are inactive. Martin and Hayward are still out indefinitely as well. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, Charlotte's going 9-4 to the under in the Spectrum Center. Meanwhile, Detroit saw unders against the likes of Memphis, New Orleans, and Miami. I'm going to lean towards Charlotte, -3, under 225.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Warriors at the Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Indiana's -1, totals 235.5. And even though the Pacers have been pretty bad here lately, they have done a nice job at home. Indy's averaging 117 points a game in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They're also led by Tyrese Halliburton, who's scoring nearly 20 points a game. He leads the NBA in assists. Miles Turner's also a legit deep ball threat. He's making over 42% of his shots from three-land. They're facing a Warriors squad who's arguably the worst road team in the game, believe it or not. Out of 14 contests away from the Bay, the Warriors got the W only 2 times. Just 2-12 straight up on the road this year. And, of course, no real shocker here. They're allowing 123 points a night away from home, which is a league worst. Now, injury-wise, Iguodala and Wiggins are both still out for Golden State. Meanwhile, for Indy on the other side, they're mostly healthy for the exception of Tice and Duarte still. Those guys banged up pretty much all season long. Now, total-wise, Indy saw overs against the likes of Brooklyn, Utah, and Sacramento. Meanwhile, the Warriors on the other side, they are 10-4 to the over while traveling. I'm going to lean toward Indiana, -1, over 235.5. Next matchup, Knicks, Bulls, 7:30 p.m. East. Chicago's -4, totals 227. But despite being favored in this one, the Bulls did drop 4 out of their last 6. And they've struggled on the defensive end of the court. They're in the bottom 10 in guarding the field goal. They're also allowing more first-quarter points at home than most clubs in the East. They're facing a Knicks team on the other side who's had little issue scoring early in games. New York's in the top 3 in the NBA in second-quarter scoring on the road. They also covered the point spread in 6 out of their last 7 outings. And they're led by Julius Randle, who's averaging over 22 points a game. Now, R.J. Barrett's also averaging 19 points a night, along with 5 rebounds. When it comes to the injury report, Obi Toppin's still out. Brunson and Arcidiacono are questionable. Meanwhile, for Chicago on the other side, Dosunmu and Caruso, they might not play for them. When it comes to the total, Chicago's 75% to the under at the United Center. Meanwhile, New York's 9-4 to the under in their travels. I'm going to lean toward the Knicks +4, under 227. Next contest, it is going to be Kings at the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's the 5.5-point favorite, totals 228. And even though I would normally lean towards Sacramento in this spot here, it's actually the Raptors who've been really good at home this year. They're 10-3 straight up in the Scotiabank Arena, and they covered the point spread in nearly 70% of those ball games. And, of course, most of that is thanks to some really tough defensive play. The Raptors are allowing just 106 points a game at home. And they're also in the top 3 in the NBA in home offensive boards. Now, Pascal Siakam, he's grabbing over 8.5 boards a night. He's also scoring 24 points a game. Meanwhile, Gary Trent Jr., he's averaging over 17 points a game himself. They're facing a Sacramento squad who dropped 3 out of their last 4. And they also struggle a bit on defense. They have one of the higher defensive field goal percentages in the West right now. They also give up the majority of their points in the first half. These guys are currently in the bottom 5 in both first and second quarter points allowed on the road. Now, injury-wise, Alex Len is questionable for the Kings. Meanwhile, for the Raptors, Hernan Gomez is questionable, and Anunoby's out. When it comes to the total, the Raptors are 8-5 to the under in their own arena. Meanwhile, Sacramento's gone 71% to the under away from the Golden One Center. I'm going to lean toward Toronto -5.5, under 228. Next matchup, it is going to be Heat taking on the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Miami's the 3-point favorite, totals 227. And even though the Heat's still favored in this one, I wouldn't be surprised if this line flipped by tip-off. Jimmy Butler's a healthy scratch. Gabe Vincent's also sitting out with a knee. And when it comes to road games for Miami, well, the Heat certainly had their issues. They're 4-9 straight up while traveling this year, and they've averaged just 106 points a night in those contests. And no real surprise here, guys. Miami's been little threat shooting the three ball on the road. They're making just 32% of their three-pointers away from South Beach. Now, they're facing an Oklahoma City team on the other side of things who actually has a winning record at home. And they have little issue scoring points there. OKC's dropping 119 points a night in their own arena. And they're led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's third in the NBA in points. Shai scoring nearly 31.5 points a game. He's also averaging 5 assists. Meanwhile, Josh Giddey, he's averaging over 14.5 points a night himself. When it comes to the injury report, Williams and Robinson Earl are out. Meanwhile, for Miami, once again, Butler and Vincent are sitting out. They're sitting out for Miami. Now, total-wise, the Heat went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, OKC's 9-2 to the over at the Paycom Center. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma City +3 over 227. Next contest, it is going to be Blazers at the Spurs, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Portland's the 7-point favorite on the road, totals 231. Now, Portland covered in their last 5 straight. They played some really good defense on the road. They're in the top 5 in fewest points allowed while traveling. They're also amongst the better defensive rebounding teams in the game. Jusuf Nurkic is averaging double-digit rebounds a night. He's also scoring 14.5 points a game. Meanwhile, Dame Lillard is scoring over 28 points a game, along with 7 assists. They're facing a Spurs team who allows more points per game at home than any other club in the league. These guys are giving up just about 120 points a night at the AT&T Center. And equally as bad, well, on the other end of the court, the Spurs are currently in the bottom 3 in the NBA in home scoring. Now, injury-wise, Richardson, Bates Diop, Collins, and Langford, they're all listed as day-to-day for San Antonio. Meanwhile, for Portland on the other side, Payton and Little, they're inactive for them. When it comes to the number, Portland's 9-5 to the under on the road this year. Meanwhile, San Antonio went 60% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Portland, -7, under 231. Next ballgame, Cavs, Mavs, 9 o'clock East. The Dallas Mavericks are the 2-point favorite at home, totals 215.5. Now, both teams do have some problem areas that concern me. For one, we'll start with Dallas. The Mavs just can't seem to grab rebounds. They're actually dead last in the association in offensive boards per game. Meanwhile, for Cleveland on the other side, they've been little to no threat scoring away from home. These guys are in the bottom 5 in road points per game. Now, injury-wise, Dean Wade is out for Cleveland. Rubio and Windler still inactive as well. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Josh Green is still out. Maxi Kleber is questionable. When it comes to the total, the Mavs have gone 7-2 to the over in their last 9. But Cleveland, on the other side, they went 8-1 to the under in their last 9 themselves. So, if you want to see whether I'm betting on the money line total or against the point spread in this one, this game's being featured as my NBA tier package bet on my website. And once again, guys, we are 3-0 in our last 3 we're 3-0 in our last 3 NBA tier package bets on that page. And just a reminder, guys, if you do sign up for that NBA package today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. All right, moving on. We're going to take a look at the Wizards at the Nuggets, and that'll be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver's the 9.5-point favorite, totals 226 and a hook. Now, I do think the Nugs should be able to cover this number here. They're 6-3 straight up in their last 9 ball games, and they're winning 70% of their contests in the ball arena this year. They're also the best shooting team in the game. They currently lead the NBA in field goal percentage. And they're also drilling a league-best 41% of their three-pointers at home. Bones Highland's making 44% of his shots from downtown. Meanwhile, Nikola Jokic, he's also dropping 23 points a game. Now they're facing a Washington team who's on a 7-game losing streak. And they also posted a record of just 1-10 straight up since November 23rd. When it comes to shooting the basketball, well, the Wizards have been no threat shooting from beyond the arc this year. They're making a league worst 28% of their three-pointers on the road. When it comes to the injury list, Beal, Porzingis, Morris, and Gill, they're all listed as questionable, so keep an eye on those guys' statuses by tip-off. Hachimura is also still out. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side, they're mostly healthy for the exception of Porter and Gillespie. Both of those guys are still out indefinitely with lower body injuries. When it comes to the total, Denver's 70% to the under on their own court this year. Meanwhile, Washington saw unders against the likes of the Nets, Pacers, and the Bulls. I'm going to lean toward Denver minus 9.5, under 226 and a hook. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final NBA breakdown. It is going to be T-Wolves at the Clippers, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. The LA Clippers are favored by 6.5 points, totals 224. Now, the Clippers did cover in their last 3 straight, and they're playing some exceptional defense this year. They're allowing only 106 points a game in their own building, and they're in the top 5 in defending the field goal. When it comes to scoring, Paul George is averaging over 23.5 points a game, along with 6 boards. Meanwhile, Marcus Morris is scoring over 13.5 points a game himself. They're facing a Minnesota squad who lost 6 out of their last 9, and they still have a handful of guys who are banged up. Towns and Prince are still out. D'Angelo Russell is questionable. When it comes to defensive play, the T-Wolves just haven't been good enough. They're allowing 117 points a night, and they're struggling guarding the three-pointer. Now, injury-wise, once again, Russell is questionable. Towns, Prince, and McLaughlin are out. Meanwhile, for the Clippers on the other side, Norm Powell is out for them. When it comes to the total, LA's 12-2 to the under in their own arena. Meanwhile, Minnesota saw unders against the likes of the Jazz, Pacers, and Memphis. I'm going to lean toward the Clippers, minus 6.5, under 224. And with that, we're going to jump into some men's college basketball. We're going to take a look at UCF squaring off against Ole Miss. That'll be a 7:30 Eastern tip-off. Ole Miss is the 5.5-point favorite. Total's 128. Now, Ole Miss hasn't lost a game at home yet. They're also one of the better rebounding teams in the SEC. The Rebels currently find themselves in the top 40 in the entire country in defensive boards per contest. They're also limiting their competition to just 63 points a game. Now, when it comes to offensive production, Amari Abraham scoring double-digit points a game, and he's knocking down 45% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Matthew Morrell, he's averaging a team-best 14 points a night. They're facing a Central Florida team who failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3 themselves. They're also making just 43% of their field goals. When it comes to the total, the Knights went 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, Ole Miss saw unders against the likes of Memphis, Oklahoma, and Chattanooga. I'm going to lean toward Ole Miss minus 5.5, under 128. Next ball game, it is going to be UCLA taking on Maryland, and that'll be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Maryland's minus 1.5, totals 140. Now, there are areas of concern with both of these schools. Now, for one, Maryland's been little threat shooting the long ball. These guys are making just 31% of their shots from three-land. But UCLA, on the other side, they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the Pac-12. As a matter of fact, the Bruins are in the bottom half in the nation in offensive rebounding per game. Now, total-wise, the Bruins saw 6 out of their last 7 get over the number. But Maryland, on the other side, they went 70% to the under in their last 10. So if you want to see whether I'm making a play on the money line total or against the point spread in this one, this game's being featured as my $1.99 daily best play on my website. And I'll include a link for that play in the description section below. And once again, just another reminder here, guys, if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. All right, moving on. We're going to take a look at, it's not listed on our big screen, but it is going to be Long Beach State taking on USC, 11 o'clock Eastern start time. The USC Trojans are -12, totals 144. Now, the Trojans have won 5 of 6 at home this year, and they've been super tough on defense. They're in the top 15 in guarding the field goal. They're also allowing just 63 points a game. When it comes to offensive production, Boogie Ellis is averaging a team-best 14 points a night. Meanwhile, Drew Peterson's grabbing 7 rebounds a game, and he's averaging 13 points a night himself. They're facing a Long Beach State team who's one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the country. When it comes to offensive production, these guys have been no threat shooting the 3-ball. They're making just 29% of their shots from beyond the arc. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, Long Beach State went 4-2 to the under in their last 6. Meanwhile, USC saw 4 out of their last 6 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward USC -12, under 144. And with that, we're going to jump into some NHL action. We're going to start off with the Habs at the Sens, 7 o'clock East. Ottawa's -185, total 6. Cam Talbot for the Senators, Sam Montembeault for Montreal. Now, Sammy's done a solid job in limited action. Montembeault's got the W in 5 out of 7 starts, and he has a save percentage of .908. Now, the Canadiens have also been tough to score against early in games. They're in the top 3 in fewest first-period goals allowed at home. Defenseman John Kovacevic, he's a +6 when he's on the ice. Now, they're facing an Ottawa team on the other side who has a losing record at home, and they give up just way too many goals in the first period. Matter of fact, the Senators are allowing more first-period goals at home than any other team in the league. Cam Talbot also comes into today's contest with a losing record on the year. Now, injury-wise, Mott and Stetzel are questionable. Norris and Zub are still out. Meanwhile, for Montreal on the other side, Drouin and Caulfield, they are listed as questionable today. Matheson is scratched. Now, total-wise, Montreal saw overs against the likes of Vancouver, Edmonton, and Buffalo. Meanwhile, Ottawa saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Montreal +1.5, over 6. Next game, Red Wings, Wild, 7:30 p.m. East. Minnesota's the $2.40 favorite, total 6 goals. Marc-Andre Fleury for the Wild, Alex Nedeljkovic for Detroit. And despite a rough start to the year for Alex, well, the Red Wings as a team, they have been solid cashing in on the puck line. They're covering in 62% of their road games this year. They're also in the top 10 in the NHL in road scoring. Dom Kubalik has double-digit goals on this season, along with 25 total points. Meanwhile, Phil Hronek, he's a +11 when he's on a shift. Now, they're facing a Minnesota team on the other side who's not so good against the puck line this year. Out of 15 home games, the Wild covered only 4 times, and that's good for just 26% in that category. The Wild's also having issues keeping the puck out of the net at home. They're in the bottom 5. They're in the bottom 10 in goals allowed per contest in their own building. Marc-Andre Fleury, he's got a goals against average in the 3s, along with an .895 save percentage. When it comes to the injury report, Duhaime is still out for Minnesota. Meanwhile, for Detroit, Mata is questionable. Larkin's out for them. Now, when it comes to the total, Detroit saw overs against the likes of Buffalo and Arizona. Meanwhile, Minnesota's 10-5 to the over in the XL Energy Center. I'm going to lean toward Detroit +1.5, over 6. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Canucks taking on the Flames, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Calgary's minus 175, total 6.5 goals. Jacob Markstrom for the Flames, Spencer Martin for Vancouver. And even though Martin's won a handful of games, he hasn't been real crisp in the crease. He's got a goals against average of .345 and an .891 save percentage. And no real surprise here, guys. The Canucks are allowing more goals a game on the road than most clubs in the league. They're actually in the bottom 3 in road goals allowed per contest. They're facing a Calgary club who's one of the best home scoring teams in the league. They're in the top 10 in home goals per contest. And they're averaging 34 shots on goal a game, so really giving themselves plenty of chances to put the puck in the net. Nazem Kadri, he has 11 goals on the year, along with 21 points. When it comes to defensive play, Jacob Markstrom's been pretty good in the net. He's got a winning record on the year, along with the goals against average in the 2s. Now, injury-wise, Tanev, Lindholm, and Weegar, they're all listed as questionable to play, so keep an eye on them. And when it comes to the total, Calgary saw overs versus the likes of Toronto, Minnesota, and Washington. Meanwhile, Vancouver, on the other side, they're 12-3 to the over in all of their road games. I'm going to lean toward Calgary, minus 175, over 6.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. And, of course, we're going to start off in the NBA. I like Orlando plus 3, over 226. Give me Charlotte minus 3, under 225.5. Indiana minus 1, over 235 and a hook. New York plus 4, under 227. Toronto minus 5.5, under 228. Oklahoma City plus 3, over 227. Portland minus 7, under 231. Now, I can't give you a free pick in the Cleveland-Dallas game. You can unlock that pick on my website. That's being featured as my NBA tier package bet. I like Denver minus 9.5, under 226 and a hook. And with my next and final free pick, give me the Clippers minus 6.5, under 224. And with that, we're going to jump into some college basketball action. I like College of Charleston minus 14, over 147. Seton Hall minus 13, under 127. Louisiana Tech minus 5, under 145. Northern Kentucky minus 6, over 136.5. Akron minus 7, under 137. South Carolina plus 17, over 143.5. Wake Forest minus 12, over 142. Florida minus 13, under 144. South Dakota minus 4, over 143. Georgia Southern minus 5, under 129. Radford plus 10, under 133. Albany minus 8, over 146. Duquesne minus 2, under 147. Cincinnati minus 15, under 148.5. Sam Houston State minus 10.5, over 129. Ole Miss minus 5.5, under 128. Mississippi State minus 21, over 130. Lipscomb minus 10.5, under 147. Tennessee State minus 5, over 146. Auburn minus 20.5, under 133 and a hook. Arkansas Pine Bluff plus 18, under 137. Arkansas State minus 3, under 136. Norfolk State minus 5, over 144. Now, I can't give you a free pick in the UCLA-Maryland game. That's being featured as my $1.99 daily best play on my website. I like Western Kentucky minus 7, under 134. Give me UC Riverside plus 14, under 137. St. Mary's minus 12.5, under 129. UC San Diego plus 15, over 136. With my next and final college basketball pick, give me USC minus 12, under 144. And with that, we're going to jump into some NHL quick picks. I like Montreal plus 1.5, over 6 goals. Detroit plus 1.5, over 6. With my next and final free play, give me Calgary minus 175, over 6.5. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website. Just a final reminder, guys, if you do sign up for a membership on that site, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.